In the ever-escalating race for technological dominance, China has just revealed something that sounds like it was taken straight from the pages of science fiction. A supermineral, harder than diamond, engineered in advanced laboratories and designed not for jewelry or industry, but for something far more powerful, the future of military strength. For decades, diamond has been considered the hardest natural material on Earth. It is used in cutting tools, precision instruments, and even in certain high-tech applications because of its unmatched durability. But what if something stronger now exists? What if a new material has not only surpassed diamond but has the potential to transform tanks, fighter jets, and even entire defense systems into virtually indestructible machines? That is the astonishing claim emerging from China's material science sector. The breakthrough did not happen overnight. Chinese scientists have been working quietly for years on synthetic superhard materials, studying atomic structures under extreme pressures and temperatures. Their latest creation is not just harder than diamond but also far more versatile. Diamonds, despite their strength, are brittle and prone to shattering under sudden force. This new mineral, however, is engineered at the atomic level to resist impacts, absorb shock, and maintain structural integrity under conditions where even the hardest diamonds would fail. In simple terms, this material does not just resist scratches or cutting, it has the potential to make military armor and aerospace components almost unbreakable. Imagine a tank with armor that cannot be pierced by conventional weapons. Imagine a fighter jet capable of withstanding missile strikes or extreme atmospheric stress without structural failure. That is the vision China is chasing, and if even a fraction of it becomes reality, the balance of global military power could shift dramatically. This is not just about creating harder armor plates, it is about redefining what protection means in warfare. Tanks could roll into battle nearly invulnerable, fighter jets could push into enemy airspace with far greater confidence, and submarines could dive deeper with stronger hulls. The implications extend beyond the battlefield. Superhard materials like this could be used in space exploration, where spacecraft face micrometeorites and radiation. They could be applied in energy, making drilling equipment more efficient or reactors more durable. Even civilian industries could benefit from cutting tools, medical devices, and electronics built from this mineral. But make no mistake, the first and primary use case is military, and that is where the story becomes even more intense. Military analysts worldwide are watching closely. If China truly holds the formula for a mineral stronger than diamond and scalable enough for mass production, then we are entering a new chapter in defense technology. Traditional weapons may become obsolete. Nations would need to rethink their strategies. Armor-piercing rounds, bunker-busting missiles, even advanced explosives could suddenly lose their effectiveness against vehicles or aircraft built from this supermineral. War, as we know it, could change. Skeptics ask whether this material is real, whether it can be produced at scale, and whether it can withstand the practical tests of combat. Laboratory hardness is one thing, battlefield durability is another. But China has already proven in the past that it can take experimental breakthroughs and turn them into reality faster than many expect. Just as they revolutionized high-speed rail, electric vehicles, and 5G networks, they could be about to revolutionize military armor and aerospace materials. Think about what this means for fighter jets. Aircraft like the J-20 stealth fighter could gain a new layer of knee-impervious armor without significantly increasing weight, making them not only stealthy but also far harder to bring down. Future drones could be coated with this material, flying into hostile airspace without fear of being intercepted. Hypersonic missiles, already one of China's strong suits, could become even more unstoppable if they are reinforced with this mineral, enduring extreme heat and pressure without structural compromise. Tanks, meanwhile, could move into an entirely new league. For decades, tank design has been a battle between offensive firepower and defensive armor. Each new generation of anti-tank missiles was met with new reactive armor, new plating, new tactics. But what if the armor simply could not be penetrated at all? That would end the cycle. The first army to field such tanks would hold a decisive advantage in ground warfare. The geopolitical implications are immense. If China holds exclusive control over this mineral and its production process, other nations will rush to catch up. Some may attempt to replicate the formula, others may invest heavily in entirely new weaponry designed not to pierce armor but to disable systems electronically. In the race for military dominance, every advantage counts, and this could be one of the biggest advantages in decades. What makes this story even more fascinating is the timing. The world is entering a period of heightened tension, with global powers preparing for possible future conflicts. Technology is now the true battlefield, and the nation that masters materials science, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing will hold the upper hand. With this supermineral, China is signaling that it intends to lead. Of course, secrecy surrounds the project. The exact structure of the mineral, the way it is synthesized, and its potential weaknesses remain undisclosed. We only know what has been carefully revealed and what military observers are piecing together from scattered reports. But history teaches us one thing: when a country makes an announcement like this, it is rarely just theoretical. It usually means the technology has already moved beyond the lab stage and is inching toward real-world applications. For the global audience, this development feels like a warning and a glimpse into the future. Wars may no longer be fought with just firepower but with the materials that shape the weapons themselves. Superminerals could redefine what is possible in defense, pushing the limits of human innovation. Whether this leads to greater security or to more dangerous conflicts is a question only time will answer. One thing is certain: the diamond, once seen as the ultimate symbol of hardness, has just been dethroned. And in its place rises a new mineral, engineered by China, that may change the future of warfare, aerospace, and technology forever. When you imagine something harder than diamond, it almost sounds like science fiction. But the truth is, humanity has always been pushing the limits of materials. In the past, it was steel that changed the world, ushering in new empires and industrial revolutions. Later, it was titanium and carbon composites that gave rise to aerospace engineering and modern defense. Now, this new mineral could be the next leap forward, one that defines the 21st century. Scientists explain that the hardness of a material comes down to its atomic bonds. Diamonds are so strong because each carbon atom bonds with 4 others in a rigid crystal lattice. This is what gives diamonds their famous ability to cut through almost anything, but it also makes them brittle, much like glass, hard but prone to cracking under sudden stress. China's new mineral reportedly overcomes this flaw by reconfiguring atomic structures into a design that combines hardness with flexibility. This means it doesn't just resist scratches, it resists breaking, shattering, and impact. To put this into perspective, imagine a bullet fired at a traditional metal plate. The impact leaves a dent or penetration. Now imagine the same bullet striking this new material. Instead of breaking or cracking, the mineral absorbs the shock, disperses the energy, and remains intact. It's like striking a wall of unyielding force, one that refuses to give way. This could make weapons that we consider unstoppable today suddenly useless. Armor-piercing rounds, designed to cut through hardened steel, could fail. Missiles that rely on explosive force to shatter armor could find themselves deflected. Even high-energy directed weapons, like lasers, would struggle against a material engineered to resist extreme thermal stress. In essence, China could be building the foundation of military platforms that are close to invincible. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Some insiders suggest this mineral may not be a single substance but a family of engineered crystals, a kind of hybrid designed under ultra-high pressure conditions. These are environments that simulate the very core of planets, places where natural diamonds themselves are formed. By using advanced presses and nanotechnology, scientists can now recreate and manipulate these extreme conditions, forging materials that nature itself never produced. That means China isn't just competing with diamonds, it's surpassing the natural limits of the Earth itself. The first applications will likely be secret. Military prototypes hidden from public view, tanks outfitted with experimental plating, or stealth aircraft reinforced with small but critical components. What we see today in headlines may just be the surface of a much deeper program already underway. By the time the world realizes how far this technology has advanced, it could already be deployed on the battlefield. Outside the military, the potential is breathtaking. Think of smartphones with screens that never crack. Think of spacecraft protected from the deadliest cosmic radiation and micrometeorite impacts. Think of industrial machines that can run for decades without wear. The possibilities go far beyond war, but the military application will always come first because nations know that whoever holds the hardest, strongest material also holds the ultimate shield. And this raises a deeper question. If tanks and jets become indestructible, what happens to the balance of power? Historically, every breakthrough in materials science has reshaped geopolitics. Bronze gave rise to empires. Steel fueled colonial dominance. Nuclear technology redefined warfare in the 20th century. Now, this supermineral could be the cornerstone of 21st century dominance. Other nations will not stand still. Research labs in the United States, Europe, and even Russia are no doubt racing to match this discovery. The difference, however, is scale. China's industrial machine is capable of mass-producing technologies at a rate that leaves others scrambling to keep up. Once they perfect a process, they can scale it from a lab prototype to nationwide deployment with astonishing speed. That's what worries military strategists the most. For the ordinary person, it is hard to imagine how a single material could change so much. But history shows us that the strongest civilizations are built not just on weapons or wealth but on the resources and materials that fuel progress. Diamonds may remain precious in jewelry stores, but in the halls of power, they may already be obsolete. The truth is, the world has entered a new arms race not just for missiles, ships, or aircraft, but for the very building blocks of the future. Whoever controls the hardest material controls the battlefield. And right now, it seems that China may have just taken the lead. Fast forward 20 years. The world has changed. What once sounded like a laboratory breakthrough has now become the very foundation of global technology. The mineral harder than diamond is no longer just an experiment. It's everywhere and its influence is undeniable. In the skies, fighter jets no longer fear missiles the way they once did. Their frames, reinforced with supermineral plating, can shrug off direct hits that would have destroyed previous generations of aircraft. The battles of the future are not about who has the fastest jet but who can maintain air superiority with machines that are nearly impossible to bring down. China's J-20 and its successors, coated in this ultra-hard armor, rule the skies with a confidence that rivals can only dream of. On the ground, tanks have evolved into fortresses on tracks. No anti-tank missile can crack them, no armor-piercing shell can penetrate their skin. They move like giants across the battlefield, and their presence alone changes the psychology of war. Soldiers on the opposing side know that no matter what weapon they fire, it will bounce off without leaving so much as a scratch. The balance between offense and defense is broken, and the side with this mineral holds the key. But the military isn't the only arena transformed. Everyday industries feel the ripple effects. Cars built with panels reinforced by this mineral are immune to crashes that would have once totaled them. Imagine a world where accidents are no longer deadly, where vehicles can withstand impacts without deforming. Smartphones and laptops never crack, even if they fall from the tallest buildings. The age of disposable consumer electronics ends, replaced by devices that can last lifetimes. Space exploration enters a golden era. Rockets shielded by supermineral composites face none of the traditional risks from re-entry heat or micrometeorite strikes. Lunar bases and Mars colonies are constructed with walls that are unbreakable, creating habitats that can endure cosmic radiation and impacts from space debris. Humanity pushes deeper into the solar system, confident that its technology can withstand the harshest conditions known to existence. Energy industries are transformed. Deep-sea drilling rigs no longer collapse under crushing pressure. Fusion reactors can be built with casings strong enough to contain unimaginable forces. Power grids become resilient, supported by machines that do not wear down after years of operation. Even medical science benefits with surgical tools that never dull, implants that never fail, and protective equipment that is stronger and safer than anything known before. But there is another side to this future, one filled with shadows. When one nation controls such a mineral, the rest of the world is forced to play catch-up. Wars may not be fought with bullets but with blockades, trade restrictions, and resource competition. Just as oil once shaped the geopolitics of the 20th century, this supermineral could become the oil of the 21st. Entire economies may rise or collapse depending on access to it. Black markets emerge as rival nations attempt to steal the secret formulas for synthesis. espionage and cyber warfare intensify, with the mineral at the center of every conflict. Laboratories become targets, scientists become high-value assets, and patents become classified secrets. A new Cold War takes shape, not fought with nuclear weapons, but with the quest for the hardest substance on Earth. And still, the question remains, is anything truly invincible? Nature has always shown that for every shield, there is a sword. For every fortress, a way to bring it down. Perhaps this supermineral will hold for decades, making tanks, jets, and spacecraft untouchable. Or perhaps new technologies like plasma weapons, directed energy systems, or quantum-level disruption will rise to challenge it. Invincibility is a myth, but superiority is real. And in this race, China has placed itself firmly ahead. In the end, the story of this mineral is more than just science. It is about power, ambition, and the relentless drive of humanity to surpass limits. From stone, to steel, to diamond, and now beyond, each chapter of materials has shaped our civilization. And now, as the diamond throne is shattered, the world watches as China steps into a new era, armed with a creation that could change everything we know about strength, defense, and survival. As the decades unfold, the supermineral no longer belongs only to laboratories or militaries. It reshapes the very destiny of humankind. What began as an armor upgrade for tanks and jets evolves into something much larger, a material that redefines civilization itself. Cities of the future rise with towers built from walls that never crack. Bridges span entire oceans without fear of collapse. Underground tunnels stretch for hundreds of kilometers, shielded by mineral structures that resist earthquakes and the shifting of the Earth's crust. Humanity's greatest engineering challenges, once limited by the fragility of materials, suddenly vanish. Space is no longer an unreachable frontier. Spacecraft clad in this mineral slice through the atmosphere, immune to the fire of re-entry. On the Moon, colonies are built beneath transparent domes that shrug off micrometeorite strikes. On Mars, bases rise in the red dust, their walls impervious to cosmic radiation. Even the dream of interstellar travel takes its first steps, as ships are finally strong enough to endure the unimaginable pressures of deep space. On Earth, industries transform at an unstoppable pace. Hospitals are filled with instruments that never wear out. Surgeons use scalpels that remain as sharp on their 1000th operation as they were on their first. Energy companies build fusion reactors with chambers capable of containing the power of stars. And on the battlefield, weapons are forced to evolve into something entirely new, for the old tools of destruction no longer work. But with progress comes peril. A mineral that makes machines invincible also makes nations arrogant. Global politics shifts violently. The side that wields this mineral grows confident, perhaps too confident, believing that no enemy can touch them. Rival nations scramble, pouring billions into research, desperately seeking either to replicate the mineral or to discover new forms of offense capable of defeating it. A silent war begins, not with armies clashing in open fields, but in secret laboratories, in corporate espionage, in stolen data and vanished scientists. Soon, the world faces a new kind of standoff. Traditional weapons lose their meaning. Battles are not fought over territory but over access to the synthesis process, the secret recipe of atomic structures forged under pressures that only a handful of machines on Earth can replicate. Whoever controls this mineral controls not just the battlefield, but the economy, the skies, the seas, even the stars. And here lies the greatest irony. A material harder than diamond, born in secrecy, meant to make tanks and jets indestructible, could end up being the very key that decides whether humanity destroys itself or unites. If one nation hoards it, the world fractures. If it is shared, it could become the backbone of a new golden age, a civilization where accidents, disasters, and wars as we know them no longer exist. The choice is not just scientific, it is human. Will this mineral become the shield that finally protects us, or the sword that divides us further? Will it push us toward the stars, or into the shadows of endless conflict? For now, one truth remains. The diamond, once the eternal symbol of hardness and purity, has been surpassed. China's creation has rewritten the laws of strength itself. And as we stand on the edge of this new era, One question echoes louder than all the rest: what will humanity do with power that even nature never intended us to have? In the laboratories where this mineral was first forged, the atmosphere is nothing short of electric. Imagine machines capable of recreating the crushing pressures found deep inside planets, where atoms are forced into configurations nature itself never dared to create. These colossal presses and plasma chambers glow with blinding light as raw materials are compressed and rearranged at the molecular level, giving birth to crystals stronger than anything on Earth. The mineral is not just a single discovery, it becomes a platform, a foundation. Scientists realize they can tweak its properties, altering atomic structures like engineers adjust blueprints. Need maximum hardness for armor plating? Adjust the lattice bonds. Need resistance to extreme heat for a hypersonic jet? Change the orientation of atomic layers. Need flexibility without losing strength? Reconfigure the crystalline arrangement. This isn't just a harder diamond, it is programmable matter, a mineral that can be tailored for any purpose. And that's when the competition begins to spiral. Other nations, unable to replicate the mineral, begin experimenting with exotic alternatives: metallic hydrogen, carbon nanostructures, graphene superlattices. But nothing seems to match the balance of hardness, resilience, and adaptability that China's creation provides. On the global stage, whispers begin to emerge: is this the new nuclear weapon? Not in its destructive power, but in its ability to shift the balance of fear, to make traditional arsenals look obsolete. The battlefield changes. Drones once vulnerable to small arms fire now fly fearlessly across war zones, their skins impervious to attack. Warships sail with hulls that cannot be torpedoed or cracked, holding dominance over seas with unmatched confidence. Even satellites orbiting Earth gain new armor, resisting space debris that has crippled missions in the past. Every system becomes harder, stronger, more unbreakable. The message is clear: the future belongs to those who master this mineral. But the human side of the story cannot be ignored. Inside factories, whispers spread among workers: are they building the foundation of peace, or the foundation of endless war? Scientists too, locked behind guarded doors, wonder whether their names will go down in history as pioneers of progress or architects of destruction. And still, the production continues, fueled by ambition, secrecy, and the race for ultimate dominance. As time moves forward, new generations grow up in a world where this mineral is no longer a secret whispered in laboratories, but a reality embedded in everyday life. Children play with toys that never break. Families live in homes that withstand disasters. Airplanes no longer crash from structural failure, and skyscrapers stand tall even against the mightiest earthquakes. Humanity begins to forget fragility. Invulnerability becomes normal. And yet, history warns us: when civilizations believe they are invincible, they become reckless. Invincibility creates boldness, and boldness invites conflict. The mineral may protect machines, but can it protect humanity from its own nature? Will wars become rarer because weapons lose their power? Or will they become more dangerous because nations feel untouchable? Meanwhile, beyond Earth, the mineral opens doors that once seemed forever locked. Vast colonies orbit the planet built with shells that deflect radiation and withstand impacts from speeding debris. Mining ships plunge into the asteroid belt, carving resources with cutting edges that never dull. Humanity begins to stretch its reach, not cautiously, but confidently, armored by a mineral that defies weakness. Mars is no longer a dream, it becomes a destination, secured by walls that no storm can break. Even the gas giants, with their crushing pressures, begin to look less impossible. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of research, experiments begin to go even further. What happens if this mineral is combined with superconductors, with quantum systems, with living tissue? Could bones reinforced with this lattice make humans themselves stronger, faster, more durable? Could implants shield organs from radiation, or exoskeletons turn soldiers into unbreakable warriors? The line between science and science fiction blurs. The mineral becomes more than a discovery, it becomes a symbol. A symbol of strength, ambition, progress, and fear. The world enters a new age, one where the very concept of fragility is rewritten. And through it all, one question continues to echo, unanswered, lingering like a shadow over humanity's future. If nothing can break us, what will stop us? The year is not far into the future when the first true battlefield test of the mineral arrives. It happens not with a full-scale war, but in a skirmish, a small conflict at the edge of disputed territory. A Chinese armored column, reinforced with this supermineral plating, rolls into hostile fire. The opposition unleashes everything they have: armor-piercing shells, anti-tank missiles, even drones carrying explosives. Yet the tanks keep advancing. The shells ricochet harmlessly, missiles detonate against armor that barely even dents, and the drones fall one by one as they realize their payloads cannot penetrate. For the first time in history, the tank is reborn as an unstoppable juggernaut. Videos of the event leak online. At first, people assume it's propaganda. But the images are too raw, too real. Global militaries scramble for answers. What they see is the birth of a new era of warfare, one where traditional weapons no longer work. The invincible war machine has arrived. Nations react with urgency. Some invest billions in laser weapons, hoping that concentrated energy beams might crack what explosives cannot. Others double down on electronic warfare, targeting the systems rather than the armor. A few begin working on exotic technologies: plasma weapons, antimatter research, and even gravitational field manipulation, desperate for a counterbalance. For the first time since the invention of nuclear arms, the world faces a military technology so disruptive it demands an entirely new playbook. But the consequences extend far beyond the battlefield. Global markets convulse as industries realize the potential. Mining companies collapse as the need for traditional armor materials like tungsten and titanium plummets. At the same time, nations without access to the mineral fear economic strangulation. Just as oil once dictated alliances and wars, this new mineral begins to decide who thrives and who falters in the 21st century. China's control over production makes it a superpower unlike any before. Its trade routes, already secured by massive infrastructure projects, now serve as arteries for this mineral's global distribution. Countries desperate for access negotiate fiercely, some offering economic concessions, others aligning their policies with Beijing's interests. Slowly, the mineral reshapes global politics, weaving influence tighter than any treaty or alliance. And then comes the leap no one expected: the mineral begins to merge with artificial intelligence. Advanced robotics, once limited by fragile materials, suddenly gain bodies that cannot be broken. Drones patrolling the skies last indefinitely, their frames never corroding or cracking. Autonomous submarines patrol the oceans endlessly, immune to crushing depths. Even humanoid robots begin to appear, built from frames that combine near indestructibility with uncanny agility. The mineral becomes the skeleton of the machine age. Civilian life transforms. Planes no longer fear turbulence or structural fatigue. Bridges last for centuries without maintenance. Entire skyscrapers are constructed with exteriors that laugh at hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes. The concept of repair begins to fade. Instead, humanity enters an age where things are built once and they last forever. But not everyone sees this as progress. Philosophers, scientists, and activists begin asking the question: what happens to a civilization that no longer knows fragility? Humanity has always advanced by learning from failure, from weakness, from breaking. If nothing breaks anymore, do we lose the very essence of growth? Does invincibility make us careless? Reckless? Or worse, arrogant? In the streets, ordinary people marvel at unbreakable smartphones and cars that never dent. But somewhere deep down, a quiet unease grows. If even tanks and jets cannot be destroyed, what happens when those same machines are turned against people? Can a shield also become a prison? Meanwhile, whispers emerge of the next frontier. Could this mineral be used inside the human body? Reinforcing bones, strengthening organs, replacing fragile tissue with indestructible lattices. Soldiers enhanced with it might walk into battle impervious to injury. Workers in hazardous industries might never face danger again. The line between human and machine begins to blur. Are we approaching the age of unbreakable humans? And still, the question lingers: if this mineral becomes universal, what will war look like then? Armies marching in armor that cannot be pierced. Cities shielded by domes that repel even nuclear blasts. Nations locked in stalemates because no side can break the other. Perhaps the wars of tomorrow won't be fought with weapons at all but with control of resources, data, and the mineral itself. The mineral, once seen as a triumph of science, becomes the centerpiece of human destiny. A new era has begun, and its name is written not in steel, not in fire, but in a crystal lattice harder than diamond, forged by the hands of ambition. As the mineral spreads into every corner of human technology, the very definition of possibility begins to change. What once seemed like science fiction is now a daily reality. Space agencies launch ships armored with this indestructible crystal lattice, vessels that glide through meteor showers without a scratch. Colonies on Mars no longer fear collapse from violent dust storms. On the icy moons of Jupiter, mining rigs pierce frozen crusts while withstanding pressures that would obliterate any metal. Humanity, once fragile beneath the crushing weight of the cosmos, now walks into space armored in invincibility. But the mineral is more than just a shield, it is a tool of ambition. Engineers begin to design machines not bound by limits. Hypersonic aircraft, once restrained by the heat of friction, now slice through the skies at unimaginable speeds, their skins glowing white-hot yet refusing to break. Deep-sea submarines dive into trenches 7 miles below the ocean surface, exploring worlds once thought unreachable. Drilling rigs pierce through the Earth's crust, tapping into geothermal energy directly, their drills never dulling, never failing. The world economy transforms. Traditional industries collapse, replaced by new monopolies centered on this mineral. Steel, aluminum, and even advanced composites are abandoned. Nations without access fall behind, their militaries outdated, their industries obsolete. It is no longer oil or gold that decides the fate of nations, but the control of this single mineral, harder than diamond, more valuable than anything humanity has ever known. And yet, history repeats itself. The more invincible humanity becomes, the more dangerous the game grows. Wars break out, not with the aim of destruction, but with the aim of control. Armies no longer fight to shatter tanks or bomb cities, they fight to cut off access to the machines and reactors that create the mineral. Factories become fortresses. Research centers become battlefields. Scientists themselves are targeted, disappearing in the shadows of espionage, kidnapped, or recruited by rival nations. As militaries grow frustrated with indestructible armor, they shift their focus. New weapons emerge, not designed to break matter, but to bypass it. Sonic weapons that attack from within, vibrating at frequencies that destabilize even the strongest crystal lattices. Electromagnetic pulses designed to fry the system's inside armor rather than crack its shell. And more ominously, biotechnological warfare, because if machines are invincible, perhaps the only weakness left is the human operating them. Still, there is a darker possibility no one wants to speak of: weaponizing the mineral itself. If it can be forged into impenetrable shields, can it also be turned into unstoppable blades? A missile coated with the same lattice could pierce anything, carving through defenses like paper. A railgun slug tipped with this material could travel at hypervelocity, punching through the strongest fortresses ever built. In this sense, the mineral is not just a shield, it is also a sword waiting to be drawn. And then comes the unthinkable. Experiments begin with merging the mineral not only into machines, but into life itself. Super soldiers with bones reinforced by the lattice, immune to fractures, immune to bullets. Internal organs shielded against toxins and radiation. Skins laced with microscopic layers that resist heat, cold, and impact. Humanity begins to step across the threshold into transhumanism, not fragile beings of flesh and bone, but armored hybrids of biology and engineered perfection. The line between human and weapon grows dangerously thin. For some, this is salvation. For others, it is a nightmare. Philosophers warn of a future where weakness no longer exists, where empathy disappears because fragility is gone. If nothing can harm us, do we still understand pain? Do we still value life? Or do we become machines wearing human faces, driven only by power, ambition, and dominance? Beyond Earth, however, the mineral whispers of greater dreams. With ships now armored against radiation, humanity sets its eyes on Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, even Pluto's frozen heart. Mining colonies appear in the asteroid belt, harvesting resources shielded by unbreakable structures. Space stations grow to unimaginable scales, cities orbiting Earth, glowing like new constellations. Some even begin to whisper of interstellar travel. With ships that cannot be broken, humanity dares to dream of reaching Alpha Centauri, Proxima, and beyond. But what awaits us in the stars? If Earth's mineral gives us invincibility, what happens if another civilization out there has already mastered something even greater? Would we meet as equals or collide as enemies, armed with indestructible weapons in a war that spans the galaxy? The mineral, born in secrecy, now becomes a question mark over the fate of civilization itself. It is a tool, a weapon, a shield, and a promise all at once. It can build cities that last forever, or destroy worlds in a way we cannot yet imagine. It is strength without weakness, but perhaps also progress without balance. And so humanity marches forward, armored in a material harder than diamond, confident that nothing can stop it. Yet history whispers the truth. No matter how invincible we believe we are, there is always a weakness, always a limit, always a price. The only question is, will we discover it in time? And so, with this discovery, China has once again signaled to the world that it is not just playing catch-up, but rewriting the rules entirely. A supermineral harder than diamond, forged in the labs of tomorrow, now stands as the backbone of tanks, jets, and technologies that will shape the wars, industries, and possibilities of the future. The question is no longer if this material will change the balance of power, but how soon. As other nations scramble to match or counter, one thing is clear: the age of steel, aluminum, and even titanium may be ending, and the age of China's supermineral has just begun. This is not simply about weapons or machines, it is about humanity's drive to break boundaries, to create what once seemed impossible, and to harness it in ways that alter the very course of history. The world is watching. The future is shifting. And it all begins with a mineral, harder than diamond, born in China. And so, with this discovery, China has once again signaled to the world that it is not just playing catch-up, but rewriting the rules entirely. A supermineral harder than diamond, forged in the labs of tomorrow, now stands as the backbone of tanks, jets, and technologies that will shape the wars, industries, and possibilities of the future. The question is no longer if this material will change the balance of power, but how soon. As other nations scramble to match or counter, one thing is clear: the age of steel, aluminum, and even titanium may be ending, and the age of China's supermineral has just begun. This is not simply about weapons or machines, it is about humanity's drive to break boundaries, to create what once seemed impossible, and to harness it in ways that alter the very course of history. The world is watching. The future is shifting. And it all begins with a mineral, harder than diamond, born in China. If you found this breakthrough as astonishing as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the technologies shaping tomorrow. This is just the beginning, you won't want to miss what comes next.